Energy transition and solar panels should be good for silver, but is there enough supply? Mid-tier miner Endeavour Silver has a pipeline of advanced projects, and the CEO is Dan Dickson. How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Michael. Thanks for having me.
Let's thumbnail Endeavour Silver. Tell us about it.
Well, we're a silver producer. 60% of our revenue comes from silver, 40% comes from gold. We have two operating assets in Mexico. We've been in Mexico now 17 years. Those assets have been in operations for 16 and 15 years, respectively, the Guanacevi mine and Bolanitos. But ultimately, we're kind of at an inflection point here. We've got our Terronera assets. It's also in Mexico, in the state of Jalisco. What we do, underground vein mining. It's going to double our production and cut our cost profile in half. So here we are. We're looking for a construction decision by the end of this year, and then it really reshapes the company.
Let's expand on that. So you have a number of projects at the top. You mentioned before is Terronera.
Yes. Terronera is an epithermal system. Silver, gold, 60% of the revenue will come from silver, 40% will come from gold. We put a feasibility study out in 2021. We're working on project loan financing. Our balance sheet's in great shape. We kind of have the equity portion of Terronera already on our balance sheet. We sat on $115 million of cash. We're looking for about $80 million of debt. The build cost for Terronera is $175 million over 2 years. So we want to push on that. And ultimately takes our production profile from 8 million silver equivalent ounces this year to about 15 million silver equivalent ounces when Terronera comes online, hopefully by the end of 2024.
What's the steps to getting to 2024 with that?
Well, mainly we're fully permitted. There's some modifications to permits that are kind of normal course, we'd say. Our mobile fleet's actually already on site. We've already committed over $69 million. We've advanced our budget to $41 million through October of this year. So we're moving actually quite quickly. So it's really the construction phase, which is, like I say, is a 2-year program. If we can execute that, we should be in commercial production by the end of 2024.
Let's go through the other pipeline projects and take us to Pitarrilla.
Yeah, this year we picked up a project, Pitarrilla. It's also in Mexico. It's in the state of Durango, near our exploration office, near our Guanacevi operating asset. It's actually one of the largest undeveloped silver deposits in the world. We picked it up from SSR Mining, who made the discovery back in 2002. They rationalized our portfolio this year. They're really a gold producer. They produce about 700,000 ounces of gold. For them, Pitarrilla just didn't meet their mandate in long-term view. For us, it meets it perfectly. 60% silver. The rest is actually lead and zinc. There's ways to go. They've defined 525 million ounces of silver at that deposit. For us, we're probably going to look at it from an underground standpoint because that's what we know, that's what we do. It fits in very nice behind Terronera. And our goal as a company is to try to get to about 20, 25 million ounces. That puts us as a senior silver producer, and Pitarrilla for us can help us get there.
Any other projects you want to highlight?
Yeah, we actually have a project in Mexico called Pitarrilla. We grew that to 40 million ounces through the drill bit to 2019. 2020, 2021, we had shut down with COVID. We had the drill rigs going again. This year we've released new results, thicker results, higher grade results. We're trying to get to about 65 million ounces of silver. If we can get there, we're going to put an economic study on it. That would be planned for next year. And it gives us really nice optionality after Terronera. The markets are good and Pitarrilla is working well. We can go that one path, or if not, something smaller scale would be something like Pitarrilla, which is 90% silver. So we have a great pipeline. There's probably not a pipeline better than ours in the space right now. A lot of work to do over the next 5 to 10 years, but that's how we want it.
Talk about the funding right now. So I think you said that there's a debt portion that was coming with the Terronera.
Yeah, like I say, our balance sheet's in great shape. We have over $155 million of working capital. We have no long-term debt, but we're looking for project loan financing. And I think it's prudent for our shareholders that we put debt on the books. We're looking for about 80 to 100. So Terronera is fully funded. Like I say, we're working with some commercial banks and want that executed by the end of this year.
Talk about the community relationship around those operations.
Yeah, Guanacevi and Bolanitos, we've been there a long time. We've got great relationships with the small towns that are right beside it, and it's actually a fabric of what we do. ESG is important for us, and ultimately you want to be a neighbor, right? You want to intertwine those communities with the mine. A lot of our employees come from those communities. In Jalisco, Terronera, where it's going to be a new operation, there's not a history of mining there. We've been engaging that community since 2010. A lot of support from the community. A lot of our workers are going to come from there. So it's been very good. Continue to have that dialogue, and it's going to change. As we've gone from exploration into development, that dialogue is going to change. When we go from development into operations, that dialogue is going to change. The meeting demands of those communities will change as we progress through, and then we have a team that handles that. I think it's been going very well. I expect it to continue to go well.
Talk about the country, Dan. Is Mexico a good place to work?
Yeah, Mexico for us has been phenomenal. I mean, first of all, it's got phenomenal geology, which is most important when it comes to mining. And as a jurisdiction in 2013, they changed their mining laws with regards to taxes. So we pay a special mining duty, we pay an environmental tax. Since the new government came in about 3-4 years ago, it was under AMLO's leadership, it's moved a little bit more left, but taxes haven't changed. There's been rhetoric around the mining industry, but ultimately nothing's changed from a permitting standpoint. Things have slowed down a little bit, but it's still one of the best jurisdictions in the world to be at. The geology is still phenomenal in Mexico. Labor supply is good. Long history of mining. We love where we're at. We think we have an advantage being there, and ultimately we'll be in Mexico for a long time.
Your mine operators, who's on the team?
Yeah, again, we've been a similar team for a long time. I've been with Endeavour for 15 years. I've been in this seat now for 1.5 years. I think the most important aspect to our company is our new COO. He came from us from Continental Gold that built the Barraquita mine in Colombia that was ultimately sold. Prior to that, he was in Guatemala building the Escobal mine. And for us going into building Terronera, Don Gray, who's the COO, is very important. He's brought in guys to help build out that team. We have about 60 people in our development team getting ready here for Terronera.
How about on the exploration side, something that's further ahead?
Yeah, I mean, touching on Pitarrilla and Pitarrilla, those are two big things from an exploration standpoint. We do have a footprint in Chile. We have about 5 projects down there. Elephant hunting, silver, gold. Ultimately, we're also picked up an asset last year in Nevada, the Bruner project, we call it. It had 300,000 ounces of gold to find 13 million ounces of silver. Again, we're advancing that. There's a lot of work left to be done in those projects. Our main focus being Pitarrilla and Pitarrilla from an exploration standpoint, those still.
Let's step back macro right now, the industry. What's the supply picture look like for silver?
Yeah, I mean, last year I believe we produced almost 850 million ounces of silver from mines. Most of that production actually comes as byproduct from copper mines or gold mines. Yeah. From primary silver mines, it's actually only a third of that. Copper's obviously done very well over the last 1.5 years. It's come off now, but there is silver there. I expect that supply to be relatively flat. It's been flat at dips, but we're not seeing big discoveries that's going to bring a lot of silver on. So I see it being relatively flat. And then if you're going to talk about supply, you got to talk about demand. And from a demand standpoint, what's happening in EVs and solars and the electrification that we're going through, there's going to be an explosion from a demand standpoint. I think we're coming into a pinch point. Ultimately, EVs, you're going to see triple the amount of silver being used in those cars compared to the combustible engine. Solar panels making big progress, but more silver in those solar panels is even to be more efficient. So lots happening from an industrial standpoint to increase that demand, which will ultimately put pressure on supply and see higher prices.
Lastly, catalysts over the next 12 months that you want to emphasize at Endeavour?
Yeah, the biggest catalyst for us is going to be Terronera and be able to execute on Terronera. I think the market knows that we're going to move just based on the economics that we've published through the feasibility study, that it will get developed. It will be funded. It's like, can we execute that on time and on budget? Ultimately, when we get through that 2-year period, we'll see a catalyst of a change into what our multiple is, but we've benefited from revising guidance upwards over the last 2 years. So we're operating really well and we're getting credit for that in the marketplace. Now it's going to be a question, can we execute on the build of Terronera? And I think we can. I think we're going to deliver for our shareholders. We have a beautiful growth pipeline behind that. So there's lots to look at Endeavour, and we're excited for the next kind of 3 to 4 years.
Dan, thanks for speaking with Kitco.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
My name is Michael McRae. You're watching Kitco Mining here at Gold Forum Americas in Colorado Springs.